Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kivi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Hey, welcome back to Keep Trucking Personal. My name is Tyler Kivi, and I'm your host. The DOT Blitz is officially live. It goes live today. It starts May 13th and is going through the 15th. It's exciting. I don't want to dive through all of what we've talked about in the previous episodes because I know how confident I am in our team, and I'm proud of where we are because we put so much work into it. But I'm excited. It's going live. So as this airs live, the DOT Blitz is live. Excited to see what everyone turns in for inspections and the money they can make. So stay tuned. We'll follow up more with that as it develops, over the next few weeks here. But I also want to take a moment and give a shout out to all of the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. You, the backbone of this industry, you truly are. You support drivers from home. You could be a driver yourself. You support the families that move America. So I'm very, very humbled, and I want to say thank you to all of the mothers out there. It's so exciting to celebrate these days and to give recognition where it's due. I want to talk a little bit about on this episode a story, and it happened with a conversation this past week with an ex-driver, a driver that used to work here and ran into some trouble with his license. So that was part of the separation why he's no longer here, but he called and wanted to talk about what it would look like to return back to the company. And this all is kind of an important time, not only for me to educate on this, but to talk about what it looks like for an insurance renewal from a carrier standpoint, right? And why it's important. And I was also able to educate this driver on what we look for and really how you put a story together, right? So before I talk about what that driver's situation and some of the things I educated, through what I could, I want to tell you that when it comes to an insurance renewal, which we're actively in the process of doing right now, that's why these DOT blitzes, this timing is so crucial. Everything is like build up right to an insurance renewal, and insurance is such a crucial part. You want to make sure that your premiums are down. You're also looking through with a microscope on all of your claims and understanding what's happened and why it's happened. And have you developed new processes and procedures to prevent those things from happening again? And how are you stopping it, right? Like, how are you going to prevent it? Because from our standpoint, a majority of every accident is preventable. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but there's so many things when we talk about pre-trips, doing your due diligence, walking around, taking the extra time to secure your cargo, keeping a procedure, a checklist, or running through consistent checklists when we see failures or things happen when people get rushed. And, we're in the business of go, 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 go. So that pressure is always there, right? It's always on your heels. And, so as we break down all of that for this insurance renewal, we start to then put together a narrative of where we're headed, right? And this DOT Blitz is part of that. We're wanting to show the underwriters what we can do and why we're confident in it. And you're preparing to go to battle. You want to come out of this renewal with, the ultimate goal would be lower premiums than what you paid for the current policy. Now that's hard to do, right? Inflation, everything continues to go up. The costs of trucks, everybody knows the cost of a trailer, like everything continues to go up. Go buy lunch at a truck stop. It's not cheap. Everything continues to go up. So you can about imagine the pressure that comes on as we come into these situations. And some of the things when I talk about narrative, right, we talk about continuous education and how and why we're doing that. We talk about investments that we've made and what they're doing to improve the safety of our company. And for example, a height pole. We've recognized as a specialized fleet that doesn't do us well to have height poles only in our heavy haul fleet. We need to have height poles in every single truck to make sure that they were measuring their height, right? We want to be compliant. Those were some of our, our larger claims was those type of claims, being over height or not being confident in your height, or even when it's supposed to be a legal load and everything is a assumption, and that's when mistakes happen. So we equipped every truck with a height pole. Now, those are the type of stories and narratives we put together to educate these underwriters. And we go through all of the investments, everything that we've done, everything that's in the pipeline, the communication, things such as even this podcast. This is an important tool for us to continue to not only inform the industry, but to help make Kivi Brothers a stronger company. We want to make sure that we find different avenues and different platforms to communicate. Some drivers do well with reading an email that's sent to them. Some drivers don't. That's just not who they are. Some drivers love podcasts. Some don't. And as you can see where I'm going with that, you're trying to always find a different platform to communicate. Technology is so prevalent in our industry, and it's emerging, and it continues to emerge. I mean, you could go down the rabbit hole of autonomous trucks and what's going on there. But when you look at what our motto is, or our ethos, it's to keep trucking personal. We want to stay connected, and we want to stay like we were when we started to grow. We stayed very close to the cuff. We talked to drivers all the time. We didn't get a separation there. We helped the drivers by not only leading them from the front, but getting shoulder to shoulder with them and working with them through the crux of whatever it was in trucking. And that some of the stories that come back to my mind as most impactful were those when it was hard, right? When it was not easy. And sometimes it's very easy to tell, go do this, go do that, but when you get out there and you're shoulder to shoulder in the hard parts of this industry, and that could even be cold, snow, terrible weather, it could go the opposite side, right? It's extremely hot, and you're out there helping to make sure that that driver sees you care. You're not just here, calling shots. And so all of this bundled up is what we're doing to make sure that we can put the right narrative together. And our CSA scores are a big part of that. And that's why we pay so much attention to it. And we continue to invest in processes and ways to improve. So back to the story with the driver that called wanting to, concerned if he could come back and what it would take. And I kind of then went into this same narrative. Our insurance is all about putting the right drivers in our seats, putting the right drivers on the road, putting the safest drivers on the road, making sure the drivers continually stay safe and are educated on how to do it. And a part of that process on a driver level is your MVR and your PSP. Now, the driver was kind of questioning like, well, how does the MVR work compared to the PSP? And as a driver, your MVR is your motor vehicle record. And this is much more like a snapshot of your driving history. And it's maintained by the state. It's maintained by the state that you reside in. And it houses things such as traffic violations. So you have speeding tickets, reckless driving, etc. If you've had suspensions or an accident you were involved, depending on the severity of the accident, a DUI, DWI, or points on your license for speeding. So that's kind of what the MVR does. But our insurance company goes through and looks at every driver on our platform, every driver on our package that we send to them. They go through and they pull the MVR, and they're assessing, how safe and responsible are you behind the wheel. And that's not just in a commercial motor vehicle. That's in any motor vehicle. That's in a car, right? Like I said, accidents and just the speeding and the points you've had against your license. So it's all a story as a driver, even you're telling. It's not just us when we talk and bring this to the insurance company. You as a driver also are building your narrative. So a clean MVR, as you can assume, leads to better opportunities, leads to lower insurance rates, right? So the more drivers we have with clean MVRs, the lower insurance rates we can get. Now, the same is true with a bad MVR. Any driver that has 15 or over speeding or an at-fault accident, without me telling you, that you've went through a litany of questions to get any job. At least any job with a reputable carrier is going to ask you what happened, why did it happen, and you may be disqualified because of that. That's a risk analysis. There's spots that say if you've had speeding tickets or multiple or an at-fault accident, there's usually a root cause of why, and it leads to your higher risk. So those are what is encapsulated in that MVR. Now your PSP, your pre-employment screen program, that is maintained by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, not your state, and it's not at the state level. And this on your PSP includes DOT roadside inspections, so violations, DOT recorded crashes, if you were cited, and the PSP carries 3 years of history and 5 years of crash history. So as you can imagine, if you've had a couple bad inspections, you had a couple, 3-4 inspections that you failed in a row, that is going to be a red flag when you're in essentially the underwriting of pre-employment. When you're looking to get hired on at a carrier and we're going through your records, hey, your MVR looks clean, right? You don't have any speeding or crashes, but on your PSP, you've got 5 failed inspections and they were for tires, brakes, lights, even logbook. You start to put together the questions of, is it all with one carrier? Is this not the driver's, is the driver out of control in this situation because the carrier won't fix it, right? That's always a question you look at. You can start to understand, was it with one carrier? Is this with multiple carriers? Is this, and you start to see those storylines put together. So your PSP comes through with a bunch of equipment violations. It makes us on a carrier level start to question, does this driver know how to do a proper pre-trip? And that's where it's so important on all levels that you maintain a healthy MVR and a PSP, because it all puts together the narrative of what your driving experience is like and how you take care of your equipment, which if you roll it up into the carrier level when we're doing an insurance renewal, then they ask us the same questions. Look at the health of your driver's MVRs and your PSPs. These are the things that matter. So as we've been so focused on the DOT Blitz coming up, now you can see why the undertone of this is the scale is much larger than just this blitz, just this 3-day blitz. It's actually a way of who we are and what we do. And an insurance renewal from a carrier perspective leads up months in advance. We're in underwriting stages now and we don't go live until July. And so you can see that this process takes months. We put together presentations. We educate those underwriters, as I said earlier, on all the things that we invest in, the technology, what we're doing, policies, procedures. We go through our own CSA scores and unpack what happened and why. You look at crash history and could it have been prevented, and you look at your losses and how the severity of those losses obviously plays a big role in what your renewal looks like. So there's so much that goes into it. And that's why I thought it was important to educate on the MVR and the PSP. And it all kind of stemmed from that driver. Great driver, did a lot of good things for us. And I was grateful when he worked here. And you can see why I had to tell him, hey, your narrative isn't, from my standpoint, the risk tolerance, it's too risky. The narrative isn't right. You have to put more work in. You have to figure out how to get your license clean before we can take a risk. Now, this is a valid Class A driver, and you can understand how hard that conversation is when it's somebody I know, somebody that's done the job here before, but their statistics are showing different. They're showing that they could be a risk. And I had to say no. It was tough. It was tough because drivers are the lifeblood of this industry. And when I have someone that knows how to do it and is very capable, and I'm telling them, no, you need to work on this, it's tough. And those are the things I think that make carriers stronger, when you can say no versus just, yes, we need a driver, because it's a revolving door in that aspect of drivers looking for new homes and changing where they work. And comfortability is nice when you have somebody that and it makes you feel like, hey, this is turnkey, this driver's ready to go. But to tell them no, and then to go through and educate on why it's important that you focus on that MVR and PSP and get those things, get them fixed. So really excited to see the results of the DOT Blitz. Happy Mother's Day to every mother involved in the trucking industry that's brought this industry to where it is today. And you don't even have to be in the trucking industry. Happy Mother's Day, everyone, obviously, but it just means so much to me to look back and give that recognition. MVR, PSP, they're so important on the driver level, and it leads up to what we look at. And like I said, as a carrier, we're going through an insurance renewal. It's funny because these things feel like they just never stop. You just finish one, you just get your policy started, and you're already strategically planning what you need to, the results of that renewal kind of already paint your roadmap of what you need to focus on for the next 12 months. And a lot of it we already know. Point in case, hours of service, right? That is one of our biggest focuses. It's foolish to have any violations in that, especially when everything's electronic. It takes a team to do this, and everybody needs to be focused on it. And that's, so these are things that we've months leading up been working on. But you get your new roadmap from the underwriters or your insurance agents, and you start to to put together, this is what we strategically need to do, these are investments we need to make, these are things that need to improve, this is in a great spot, and you get room to celebrate wins, right? Recognition and appreciation is so important, and I'm grateful for the drivers and the work they've put in. I'm grateful for our team and the level of professionalism that we can deliver day in and day out is exciting. And these things are continuous and they never stop. This will always be in the industry. And I'm just excited to really feel like this. I feel like this is the best we've ever been as a carrier in our history. So very excited to prove it. And sometimes this industry feels like you have to prove it. Things don't come easy. You've had to bootstrap and get in there and work hard, and everybody deserves a pat on the back. So until next time, stay safe, keep trucking personal, and get a good DOT inspection. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Kivi Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.